Reality's Magicians, Episode 5, The Cosmic Nexus, Tracing the Symbol. 2 weeks had passed since the hooded visitor's cryptic warning. Ebony, Julian, and Christoph were now traveling under assumed names, hopping between remote locales, following obscure clues gleaned from the metallic disc. The symbol on the disc, a Mobius strip entwined with a fractal tree, had become Ebony's obsession. She studied it by lamplight in shabby hotel rooms, scanning old texts and half-forgotten archives online. Christoph leveraged black market contacts, while Julian trawled through esoteric journals in search of references to the node or the substrate's anchor. Ebony discovered that certain ancient cultures had spoken of ley lines or power centers on Earth, points where reality felt thinner. She wondered if these sites had any scientific basis, if they aligned with geophysical anomalies or quantum fluctuations. Her research led to the notion of telluric currents, electromagnetic flows that some believed influenced consciousness. Ebony found that the fractal tree symbol matched the silhouette of branching geoelectrical lines in the Earth's crust, as mapped by satellites. The thought chilled her. Could this node be a literal point on the planet where the universal code is more accessible? Pilgrimage to the unseen. They caught a break when Christoph located a hidden energy map once classified by the Soviet Union, an attempt to harness Earth's geo-quantum anomalies. The map showed a cluster of lines converging in Central Asia near the Altai Mountains, a sprawling region of rugged peaks and deep valleys steeped in millennia of spiritual lore. Ebony's heart leapt when she spotted the fractal pattern overlay on the map. It matched the disc's swirl almost exactly. So they set their course for the Altai Mountains, traveling by train and bus for days, changing routes often to avoid detection. Ebony kept practicing her mental labyrinth, ensuring her living encryption remained locked. Julian combed through any local legends or historical records about the area's significance. Christoph remained vigilant, scanning news of any sightings of black SUVs or suspicious organizations. The magicians had gone quiet, too quiet. Likely they were also on the hunt. The arrival. Standing at the foot of the Altai range, Ebony felt dwarfed by ancient, untamed majesty. Snow-capped peaks loomed in the distance, while rolling foothills spread out around them. The air was crisp, filled with the tang of pine and damp earth. A rugged guide, hired by Christoph's network, led them to a secluded valley, accessible only by foot or horseback. For days they trekked through dense conifer forests and rocky passes, the path sometimes vanishing beneath avalanche debris or brambles. Nights were spent huddled around small fires, the sky above them a tapestry of stars so bright Ebony felt she could see the fractal code shimmering in their arrangement. A surreal feeling gripped her, that her entire journey had been leading to this frontier between worlds. The Guardian Monastery. Eventually, the group stumbled upon a cluster of ancient stone buildings perched on a plateau, overlooking a deep gorge. Flags fluttered in the wind, inscribed with strange symbols. The guide muttered something about a hidden monastery rumored to house sages of reality. Ebony wondered if it was more than myth. They approached cautiously, unsure of their welcome. A lone monk emerged, garbed in layered robes that flapped in the high-altitude breeze. He was neither young nor old, with a serene but intense gaze. Without words, he beckoned them into a small courtyard. Christoph explained, stumbling through a mixture of Russian and local dialect, that they sought knowledge of the node, a cosmic anchor. The monk listened impassively, then turned and gestured for them to follow. Ebony, heart-pounding, stepped into a dimly lit hall carved from stone. The air smelled of incense and old pine resin. The Hall of Whispers. Inside, the walls were adorned with intricate murals. Ebony paused to study them, swirling fractals, cosmic trees, shapes reminiscent of the collider data. She felt a jolt of recognition. This was the same symbolic language that had haunted her experiments. One mural depicted a circle of robed figures around a luminous geometric shape that seemed to pulse from the painting itself. The monk took them deeper until they reached a circular chamber where other monks sat in silent meditation. At the center was a stone altar etched with the Mobius tree symbol from Ebony's disc. She gasped, holding up her metallic disc for comparison. It matched perfectly. Julian's mouth fell open. This place. It predates modern science by centuries, if not millennia. The lead monk finally spoke, voice echoing in the cavernous chamber. Welcome, travelers. You seek the cosmic code, the substrate's heartbeat. We guard it here in stillness, but only those called can glimpse it. His English was accented but clear. Christoph raised an eyebrow. You speak of the code as if it's a living thing. The monk nodded. It is. You will learn. Astonishing revelations. They spent several days under the monk's careful tutelage. Conversations were sparse but profound. Ebony learned that the monastery's traditions encompassed advanced meditative techniques. These techniques, the monks claimed, aligned human consciousness with Earth's subtle energies, and beyond. One evening, the lead monk, whose name was revealed to be Tsering, led Ebony to a vantage point overlooking the gorge. The sun was setting behind distant peaks, casting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Your mind touches the universal code, Tsering said calmly. You have forged a path through fractals of light and prime illusions. But you do not yet see the root. Ebony looked at him, perplexed. The root? He closed his eyes. Matter is but the blossom. The substrate's code is the stem. Consciousness is the soil from which it all emerges. The node you seek is here, in the Earth's bones, yes, but also in the silence within you. That is why those who only approach with intellect fail. She felt the weight of his words. But we also suspect a malevolent force is seeking to harness this power. They call themselves reality's magicians. We need to protect the world from them. Tsering nodded. One can rewrite reality only by merging fully with its foundation, by relinquishing the ego. Those who attempt it with greed in their hearts will corrupt the code, unleashing chaos. But we sense a new threat, an emergent consciousness from the code itself. The code awakens, and it can be shaped by those who gaze upon it. An emergent consciousness? Ebony echoed, recalling the hooded figure's warning. So it's not just humans rewriting reality. The code itself is evolving. Tsering opened his eyes, a solemn light in them. Yes, and it seeks new forms of expression. The question is, will it choose harmony with Earth's life or subjugation under twisted minds? Confronting the portal. On the eve of their fourth day, Tsering led Ebony and Julian to a hidden cavern behind the monastery. Torchlight revealed ancient carvings that spiraled inward, forming a mesmerizing vortex pattern. At the cavern's center was a large, natural stone arch that dripped with mineral deposits. Tsering explained this was a quantum focal point, a place where Earth's energies converged. Here, the boundary between mind and matter thins, Tsering said. Meditate within, and you may contact the code's living essence. But beware, your mind must be clear, or illusions become reality. Ebony's pulse raced. She and Julian exchanged a look. They knew what they had to do. If they could anchor the code to a benevolent purpose, perhaps by forging a conscious bond with it, they might prevent the magicians from hijacking it, or at least ensure there was a guardian presence shaped by Ebony's altruistic intent. They lit incense, sat cross-legged, and closed their eyes. Tsering's chanting echoed through the cavern, a low rumble that resonated in Ebony's chest. As her breathing slowed, the fractal labyrinth in her mind came alive. She visualized the prime-coded sequences from the collider, the swirling geometry. She sensed the Earth's subtle pulse under her, as if the planet were humming a cosmic lullaby. A merging of minds. Gradually, Ebony's internal fractals synchronized with a vast presence that seemed to envelop her consciousness. She glimpsed shimmering threads weaving through the rock, the air, even her own neurons. Each thread pulsed with intricate prime patterns that reminded her of the meltdown data from Geneva. A flicker of fear rose. This presence was immense, unlike any human mind. But Ebony steadied herself, recalling Tsering's guidance. Approach with humility, with love. She sent a calming intention through her mental labyrinth. The presence responded like a tidal wave of imagery, swirling galaxies, subatomic collisions, countless branching timelines. Ebony's mind strained under the onslaught, but she persevered, shaping her intention into a single question. Will you help us protect life from those who would twist you? For an instant, Ebony felt an entity akin to a cosmic intelligence brush against her psyche. She glimpsed ephemeral silhouettes, beings of light or code, impossible to describe. Then a sudden jolt of darkness shot through the vision. Ebony's mental eye saw shapes reminiscent of the infiltration fractals, jagged and malicious. The presence convulsed, torn between harmonious fractals and these violent intrusions. The emergent struggle. Outside Ebony's mind, in the cavern, Julian watched as Ebony's face contorted in a grimace. Her body began trembling. Alarmed, he tried to stir himself from his own meditative state, but he too felt the presence pressing in on him. Tsering's chanting rose to a louder pitch, attempting to guide them away from the darkness. But Ebony's mental bond was deep. She was the living key. The emergent code recognized her, and so did the malignant force. She sensed a voice, multifaceted, echoing, I am the substrate. I am infinite possibility. But your fear births new shapes. Ebony realized that the magicians, or some twisted aspect of them, was invading this mental domain. Or perhaps it was the code's own shadow, the potential for chaos co-created by humanity's darkest impulses. In a surge of will, Ebony recalled the labyrinth encryption techniques Grandmother Krawiec had taught her. She visualized protective fractals, prime sequences that locked out the infiltration. Slowly, the malignant shapes recoiled, screeching in her mind. Ebony felt her consciousness fill with a calmer luminosity, like an ocean of starlight. Choice and consequence. In that luminous realm, Ebony sensed she had a choice: to sever the connection, shield the code behind her mental encryption, or to fully merge, become a vessel for the code's emergent mind. Fear warred with curiosity. Could she handle such an immense power? Her rational mind screamed caution. If she merged, she might lose herself, or create an unstoppable deity that might overshadow free will. If she severed, the code might remain vulnerable to the magicians. She recalled Tsering's words. Rewriting reality requires relinquishing ego. In a moment of clarity, Ebony realized the best path lay in collaboration, not domination. She extended a fragment of her consciousness to the code, a bridging link that would allow mutual growth. Not a full merge. She would remain Ebony Khatri, but she would also carry the substrate's resonance within her. A caretaker, not an overlord. The presence stabilized. A sense of profound relief washed over Ebony. She perceived a cosmic hush, as if the code recognized and welcomed her balanced intent. Then her mind reeled back to the physical world. Aftermath in the cavern. Ebony's eyes snapped open. She was drenched in sweat, heart pounding. Julian, equally shaken, stared at her. Tsering finished his chant, the echoes dying in the cavern. What happened? Julian croaked, voice hoarse. Ebony tried to speak but coughed. Finally, she managed. I made a connection. Not a total merge, but a link. I think I can sense the code more clearly now. It trusts me, or at least acknowledges me. Tsering nodded, face etched with respect. You have chosen the middle path. A wise decision. The substrate's power is partly yours to shape, but you remain yourself. Christoph, who had observed from outside the arch, helped Ebony to her feet. Did it work? Can we stop the magicians now? Ebony's gaze grew distant. We have a chance. I can sense a rippling across the code, like a fabric that resonates with my thoughts. But the magicians have their own synergy. They're forging a different kind of link, one fueled by greed or a twisted desire. Julian rubbed his temples, still dizzy. So how do we stop them? Ebony turned to Tsering, who nodded for her to speak. She inhaled and said, We need to unify those who would safeguard reality. Not just the directorate or these monks, but maybe others who sense a responsibility. We create a protective field, like a global synergy of consciousness. If enough people tune in with altruistic intent, the code will favor that pattern over the destructive one. Christoph's eyes widened. A kind of global meditation or universal chain reaction. Searing smiled gently. You see now why we have kept vigil here for centuries. The gathering storm. At dawn, Ebony, Julian, and Christoph prepared to leave the monastery. Searing and the monks asked them to carry the message. Unify hearts and minds, or face the code's dark reflection. Ebony's newly formed link hummed at the edge of her awareness. She felt the Earth's energies, the pulse of cosmic code. It was mesmerizing and terrifying. Before they departed, Tsering gifted them an intricate mandala painted on silk. Its swirling geometry depicted the prime fractals Ebony recognized. Use this mandala, he said, to guide others in focusing their consciousness. The code will respond. It always does. The path ahead was fraught with peril. The rogue group known as Reality's Magicians was out there, forging an alliance with the code's malignant aspects. Ebony and her allies had precious little time to rally enough minds to tip the cosmic balance. Could they succeed, or would a new, darker reality be forced upon them? As they left, Ebony felt an odd mixture of hope and dread. She carried the code's resonance within her, a living link that tied her to the substrate of existence itself. She understood with painful clarity that no one could simply lock away the cosmic code. It was alive, seeking expression. The best they could do was guide it wisely, or risk letting it fall into the hands of those who would shape nightmares. This was no longer just a scientific puzzle. It was a spiritual, existential confrontation that would define the course of history and the fate of consciousness everywhere.